once you get through this, I think after the loved one's estate is all processed, you as the surviving loved one need to plan for your own future. And I tell my clients, like, it might be completely different than what you had envisioned when there were two of you in the plan. And that's fine, because it's a whole new set of circumstances. And it's okay to change the plan and don't feel encumbered by what perhaps you and your spouse had envisioned, because it's a whole new normal now.
Welcome to the Wiser Retirement Podcast, where we believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith, guiding you to financial freedom. Today is my co-host, Missy Beach, the world's greatest financial planner.
Hey, Casey.
Hello, Missy. Man, what a topic. Yeah, we've had like record downloads of our podcast recently. This one might kill it. No pun intended.
Oh, that's so bad. Dad joke. Way to lead it off, Casey. It is depressing.
Yeah, but you know what? We get a lot of our podcast topics from listeners like you, but also we get, we talk about what people are asking and
what we're seeing in practice.
Yeah, we've kind of gone through a season here at our firm where just a lot of people are losing loved ones.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's a fact of life.
It is, and so that's one of the questions we get is, hey, what do I do now? What's the next step? So we've written out some steps for you, and hopefully you don't have to use this anytime soon, but you can file this in the back of your brain or this podcast, and we're here to help you walk through these processes. It's typically not super complicated. I think partially because our clients are well prepared because we think about this stuff way ahead of time, right?
Right.
So
it just gets magnified, though, because of the grief and the emotional aspect of it. It seems insurmountable. So that's why I think we need to step through it today to show, like, it's really some logical steps. Let's just walk through. And
then also, this is probably a good public service announcement of get your affairs in order. Don't leave the next generation a mess, and keep it really clean. Don't having 25 CDs at 25 banks and not tell anybody, and you have to go bank to bank, or just you want to.
Yeah.
The goal is not to end up on the what do they call that when the government, it's like a government list of
the missing money thing.
Yeah.
Unclaimed property. Is sheeted to the state.
Right. But
what else do you want? Is this a game show?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's like in Arkansas they have a special name for it too. It's like the gold something. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Bottom line is the state will collect all these things that you didn't tell anybody about, and if your loved ones don't know to go look there on that list, then you're out of luck. Yeah, you're kind of out of luck. So,
and when you're talking about loved ones and having their affairs in order, like we just had a situation where a client's son died unexpectedly, adult son,
right,
and didn't have estate documents in place. So it's not just you looking out for your parents. It's you with adult children looking out. Do your adult kids have documents in place? You think they don't really have much, but hey, they have 401ks at work. They've got assets. They've got, cars. So they need documents as well. So don't leave your, parents in a lurch.
True. Don't leave your ex-spouse listed in a will because you forgot to change it.
Happens.
That's awkward, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's get started. So obviously losing a spouse is emotionally challenging, but it can be financially challenging as well. So what do we do when a loved one has passed away first?
All right, let's start with the obvious. You need to have proof that this did occur, so you need the death certificate.
Yep.
And not just one copy, multiples, because oftentimes the institution will need an original. So don't skimp on that. I don't know how much it is per death certificate. I don't know,
maybe
$8, $10.
Yeah, probably pick up 10 copies.
There you go.
Probably be good. And then file those away in a place that you know where to find them. That would be good.
Yep.
All right, so we got our death certificates, which usually happens a couple weeks after the event. What do we do next?
All right. Well, you need to tell financial institutions, credit card issuers, mortgage companies, investment, retirement account holders. It also says Social Security Administration, but I think the funeral home in most cases will notify Social Security for you.
Yeah.
And that's key. So if you're not dealing with a funeral home, you need to tell Social Security so they don't keep those checks coming. Because if they do,
you owe it to them.
You have to send it back, and that's a pain.
That applies to VA benefits like VA disability, aid and attendance, all the VA type stuff. You need to have that turned off as well.
Any pension benefits
Pensions,
from corporates.
You will owe that money back. That's not free money.
True story here. I have a family member through marriage that just didn't notify the North Carolina Teachers Association that someone had died.
Yeah.
The pension kept paying out. What do you know?
They kept spending it?
Yeah. North Carolina Teachers Association was like, hey, this person died. You can't have that money.
Right.
So they clawed it all back.
Wow.
I mean, common sense.
Yeah.
But maybe not always common to some people.
Right.
All right, what's up next?
Well, for a spouse, if you lose your spouse, it's time to update and review your budget. So sometimes with spouses, we're losing pensions without, any death benefit to this other spouse. We might be losing, you're definitely losing your Social Security. You get the higher of the two.
Correct.
But it's time to kind of reassess, okay, this is my new income. Hopefully we've done all this through the planning process and we already know this, but if you're helping someone, that's what I would do is we need to assess what your actual income is and what your new expenses are going to be. Maybe expenses have gone down. Maybe there are big medical expenses happening prior to someone passing away. So maybe in some sense it's a financial relief.
Exactly.
But in many cases, there's a little bit of a drop in income, but hopefully without having another person, then it all kind of works out, right?
Yes. And that takes us into the next one is collecting life insurance and other benefits. Mm-hmm. So you need to contact the insurance company and begin that claims process. That kind of ties into that last bullet point about the budget and how you're going to use those life insurance death benefits.
Yep.
And that goes back to the plan. So what was the purpose of that life insurance? So if it was a premature death, was that in place to perhaps pay off the mortgage? Was it to pay for the kids' college education? What was that death benefit intended to relieve in that household?
Yeah, or replace income.
Absolutely.
Or perhaps do nothing other than build up and be saved for retirement. That's a possibility too. And then when you fill out those life insurance forms, you got to take your time. Maybe have someone glance over it because if you get anything wrong, they're going to reject it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
their job is
kick it back.
The agent's job is to sell you the policy. The insurance company is to never pay. That's their job.
I don't know why. You're at your lowest point in life.
And they're the most difficult. And all their letters start off with, we're really sorry about your loss. Mm-hmm. This does not appear to be your signature. No, right? It's like, how do you even know what my signature is? Or you checked this box, but just outside the box, you didn't check the whole box. We need you to check the whole box and not just on the edge of the box. Silly things like that. So yeah, that's important. And typically you're not getting life insurance check mailed to you. They typically open up some type of a money market account for you.
That's right.
They want to keep that money near them as long as possible. You just need to cut the cord and.
Exactly. We had a client who just had to make a claim on life insurance for a loved one. And the life insurance company said, okay, we'll process the claim, and then sent her 3 pages of blank checks that she could write off of the money market that they put her proceeds into. And I said, all right, we will shred all but one and then roll this over to something that's actually going to grow like the plan needs.
And then would have paid a little bit of interest. So she written that one check and then she had 3 pennies left. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the account a month later.
It was going to pay 0.5%.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was pretty generous, I thought.
0.5%.
0.5.
Good grief. All right. So let's assess assets and liabilities. So we know that we have a budget plan. We know what our expenses are. We know that we have, hopefully we have life insurance, but what's the best use of that? So looking at your debts and liabilities, determine, one, if you're responsible for them. So a lot of times the hospital bills you may not be responsible for after a loved one's passed away.
Yeah, they're just in that person's name.
Correct.
Not a joint debt.
Correct. So we've, a long time ago, we had a situation where wife or husband passed away. He had $100,000 in credit card debt, which I didn't think was possible.
Wow.
But we got it all charged off because it was only in his name, it's not in the wife's name.
That's awesome.
There was stuff that was joint had to get paid. But those are things to think about. But yeah, so you want to try to go debt free as much as possible. So if there's enough insurance there, sometimes it's better to be debt free and maybe even work a few more years than it is to hold on to that asset and the liability.
Oh yeah, clear the liabilities.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
So now you've got a situation where your own legal documents, your will, power of attorney, medical directive, probably named the spouse or might name the loved one. If it was a mom or dad, maybe they were the backup to your minor children for guardianship, something like that. So you need to go review your own estate planning documents to make sure that they're still current and that you need to go ahead and make any changes in case something were to happen to you.
And it's not just your legal documents, not just your will, healthcare power of attorney, and financial power of attorney, your beneficiary designations, like on your 401k, your IRAs, things like that. Make sure everything is updated and that loved one's name isn't anywhere.
Correct. Yep. So let's talk about retitling assets and updating accounts.
Oh, the fun stuff.
Right. So the car might be in their name.
Yep. Gonna have to change the title of the car.
House.
Yep. Oh, hey now. With the house, there's a cool thing in Georgia now where you can transfer the house if it's not already in joint ownership. So if it's a spouse that passes, typically your house is going to be owned joint with rights of survivorship. So when one spouse dies, it just passes automatically to the surviving spouse. So not a big issue.
Yeah.
But what happens now is when that second spouse dies, the house typically goes through probate. So what we can avoid now, instead of going through probate with the house, is to transfer it via the deed, naming a beneficiary. So for a lot of elderly parents, this might be a great estate planning technique to get the house out of probate. Just name the kids or whomever you want to inherit the house as a transfer on death designation on that deed. And it's revocable. So, if you change your mind and you hate your kids one day, you can change the deed and name the cat charity or whatever to get your house. But it's
actually really good because if you did transfer on death on all your individual accounts, and then you have beneficiaries on all your retirement accounts, and you do this with your property, you almost don't even need a trust anymore.
Yeah, in Georgia, you don't.
So you just do a simple will and go through this process. Now, if you still have assets in multiple states, maybe a more complex family situation, then you'd still want to have a revocable living trust. But this definitely helps make things a lot simpler.
Exactly. But when it comes to investment accounts and things like that, if you owned it joint with your spouse, it'll just be a matter of retitling it into individual name. The great thing, though, is the step up in basis that half the account will get at the death of that joint owner.
Right.
No, it's only half because
True.
they only owned half, but still, that's something that the custodian like Schwab will do. Let's see, what's next? Oh, tax obligations. All right. So you'll need a final tax return with your spouse. In Georgia, we don't have any state inheritance taxes, but in other states, like Maryland is one where there's an inheritance tax. So
Massachusetts, I think it's 5%.
yeah.
Something like that.
And it depends. Sometimes passing to immediate relatives, there's not. But if it passes to anyone outside the immediate family, that's what's going to trigger inheritance tax.
Seeking professional guidance. I think I'll add on this category is, so do you probate or not probate in a estate? So even if you have a revocable living trust, I honestly, I guess it depends on the situation, but I almost lean toward always probating.
Yeah.
Even if all the assets can get passed, there's really not much to probate. But just because if something happens down the road, let's say there is an asset that was not titled in the trust, but you don't know about this till 15 years later, they're going to ask for all the papers that you get through the probate process to prove that these assets definitely go into either you'll put it into the trust or goes to loved ones. So I kind of think you don't need, if you structure everything correctly, you shouldn't have to go through probate, but I'd probably just run it through there as it's
cleaner.
Yeah.
It's a record. It's a trail of what happened.
Right.
And it's a safety net to fall back on. Like you just said, in that situation that an asset just pops up. Yeah. What if you're on that, missingmoney.com or unclaimed property,
right.
7 years from now, and you're like, oh,
unclaimed
shoot.
property. That's what I was trying to think of earlier.
Oh, all right. Great. We closed the loop.
Each state has one. Yeah. I think that's better to do that. So that's something that typically you can do yourself. We have a lot of clients that do it themselves. But I think many people just hire the attorney and pay them the few $100s to take them through.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Through the probate process.
And then once you get through this, I think after the loved one's estate is all processed, you as the surviving loved one need to plan for your own future. And I tell my clients, it might be completely different than what you had envisioned when there were two of you in the plan. And that's fine because it's a whole new set of circumstances. And it's okay to change the plan and don't feel encumbered by what perhaps you and your spouse had envisioned because it's a whole new normal now. And that's fine.
Yep. So planning for the future. That goes back to financial planning. So when we have a client who's lost a spouse, we sit back down, we rebuild the plan, and then just as you were talking about, we're now looking at the future from a financial perspective. And so that's really important that you stay in tune with that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if they're older, kids will be more involved in that process, understanding that mom's going to be okay. So that's usually when we see our meetings go from mom, and then mom, it's one or two siblings that come along.
Yeah.
Or children, sorry.
For support. Yeah. And another thing to realize is that you don't have to be tied to the assets that you inherit from this loved one, the physical nature of them. Like maybe you got GE stock from this loved one, and you have to loosen up that line of thinking that, this loved one wanted me to have the GE stock.
Right.
No, it's not that GE stock. It's that legacy or that asset, the financial wherewithal that they are providing you and enabling you to make your own future better.
Right.
So maybe the GE stock needs to be translated into something more diversified. Or I had this one consultation who came in and had a huge amount of debt and needed to dig out of this hole. but was overlooking this house that he had inherited from his grandmother and was just renting to family members and was barely breaking even. And he was so set on maintaining the grandmother's legacy in this property that he had just written off a $100,000 asset as like, I have to preserve her legacy. So I had to open his mind to, no, your grandmother would want you to make your life better and improve it. And you need to sell this asset and pay off, $30,000 in credit card debt at 30% to stop the bleeding and improve your life and start investing in a Roth IRA and, digging yourself out versus holding on to a property that you said you're never going to go live in because it's in another part of the state. And so open your mind to what the overall picture is that your loved one would want you to pursue. And it's not a physical asset.
Yeah, very true. Very true. We've got a couple of other episodes you might want to listen to. Episode 146, The Power of Life Insurance to meet your family's goals. Obviously, you don't want to leave your family in a situation where they're underwater, especially if you're a younger person. And so that life insurance helps solve that. But how much do you need? The life insurance people want to sell you a whole lot of it. So that's where the planning part comes in. We're able to tell people what they need, and we don't sell it either. So there's no conflict there. How second marriages and blended families impact estate planning. Unfortunately, everyone kind of gets along until the dominant person in the family passes away. And when that happens, it becomes a feeding frenzy. And I've seen it so many times, just well-meaning, great families. And then as soon as mom or dad pass away, or both, it's all out war.
Yep.
And so that's where, you want the estate settlement process to go very easily. You want people to get along. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you need extra documents to make that happen through like a revocable living trust.
Yep.
So that's a fun episode 233. We also have a YouTube video or YouTube channel. It's also called A Wiser Retirement. If you ever go to YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to that. There's new 2024 rules on transfer on death deeds in Georgia, which Missy just talked about. Mm-hmm. Why you should always have a contingent beneficiaries on your retirement accounts. That's important as well. And I would say, if you having a will is great. A power of attorney, medical directive, everyone should have those, or go a step beyond and have the revocable living trust. But you also need to go through every one of your retirement accounts. Retirement accounts pass outside of probate. They pass outside of the will. They pass outside of the trust. And so you need to verify that your beneficiaries are correct.
Oh, yes.
So your beneficiaries could be the trust of an IRA if your trust is set up for that.
A conduit trust.
If it's not, then you would just mimic the beneficiaries that you have in the trust on the IRA or the 401k at work. So just be very, very careful of that. That's something you should probably do every couple of years. Just make sure all the beneficiaries are correct. We do that during our review meetings.
Yes.
And then also your life insurance. Make sure that your life insurance is pointing to the right people.
Yes.
As well. And then, as you have an adult children and you feel like that maybe someone's maybe less responsible, you can create provisions for that. So there's all kinds of things you can do through the estate planning process to make this list that we've gone through much easier for the people that you care about and don't care about. Right?
True story.
Either way. So, but anyway, thanks for listening to today's episode. If you are interested in learning more about Wiser Wealth Management or want to schedule a consultation with one of our fiduciary financial advisors, you can do so by going to wiserinvestor.com, or you can click on one of the links in our episode notes. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.